the Biden-Harris administration really wants to move fast, because, the previous administration, to use Trump's term, the incoming administration, the new administration, but the previous administration did a terrible job at addressing many of these things. Like people are saying, like for example, if you look at the death rate, the COVID death rate in the US, like if the death rate was the same as the one in Canada, like almost 200,000 people would be saved, like they wouldn't have lost 200,000 people, so like there are many points where you can point to a failure of the Trump administration. And now that the Biden administration is moving in a moment of crisis, like the economy is doing bad, the public health of people is not well, like the environment, there are many things to address on many fronts, on social things about social justice and, many of these things. So like that, on the first day of the administration, President Biden has already taken 17 executive actions on day one. And that's a record by far. One of the executive actions that's been in Canadian news recently is the Keystone XL pipeline. That goes from Canada to the US. Joe Biden has ordered to cancel it on the grounds of environmental protections and stuff. So you can see that the administration is moving in quickly, and there's also Joe Biden has also proposed a 1.9 stimulus package bill. That's a legislation that has to, be discussed in the Senate, the House, and the bill will not look the same as it was proposed when it is passed, but it should pass because the Democrats have the majority. They have the Senate they have the majority in the House, but the Senate is split 50-50, but Vice President Kamala Harris will break the tie if needs be. So for things of those nature, like economic things, like the stimulus package, those can go through with 51 votes through Senate process that's called reconciliation. It's kind of like it can get a bit technical, but there's also the filibuster there's a filibuster in the Senate that requires that you have at least 60 votes to pass other stuff. So, for example, the news administration's immigration plan that came out just a few days ago, that one will need to have at least 60 votes. And so they'll have to negotiate with a bunch of Republicans, and that might even die in there, in the Senate. So, the bottom line is President Joe Biden is moving really, really fast, really, really fast, and wants to help Americans and give them some help, economic help, and act on many of those, and reverse a bunch of Trump policies, especially like the Muslim ban, building the wall and those kind of things. He's already reversing the transgender ban in the army. Those executive actions are already being reversed.
Yeah, and it's quite fitting, in a weird way, that Joe Biden is inheriting one of the worst crises, or one of the worst crises that we've had in modern history, right? With obviously with this pandemic, because at the same time when he came in with Obama years ago, Obama was inheriting the financial crisis, and they had to get the ball rolling very quickly, and they faced a lot of lot of challenges. So it's quite fitting that Joe Biden, from that experience that he had with Obama, he kind of carried that into this, which is arguably maybe worse. It's probably worse than what Obama had to inherit. So in a sense, like he's been prepared for this. Like that's what's interesting. Like he's prepared, like he's experienced for this. You know, when Trump came in, he wasn't experienced for anything. When Joe Biden is coming in, he's experienced. So he knows how to get the ball rolling. And it's interesting to me, like before he even signed any executive action, Joe Biden was already, first thing it was like, we're going to lead by example. Like throughout the whole inauguration, everybody had masks. Like unless you're talking on stage or whatever, then, you know, unless you're singing, you mask off. But other than that, you know, mask on, etc. So they were already leading by example. Like we see a stark contrast to the previous administration. And also you talked about the lives that could have been saved in COVID-19. Like I remember the day before the inauguration, they went somewhere outside where they had lit candles for like at the 400,000 deaths due to COVID-19, you know, and he said a little word for them and etc. And it was interesting because I heard Olivia Chor, who was on Mike Pence's pandemic team before she resigned. She was asked like, do you think life could have been saved if Trump took the virus more seriously and implemented stuff like a national mask mandate and all these things, right? And she was like, oh, we could have saved thousands of lives, like thousands. And she said something that's even more interesting than that. That's really deep. She's like, when we prepare for these things and we go to school or whatever, and we just prepare for them, in our rule book or in our textbooks, they never tell us about what to do if your leader in chief is the one inhibiting your actions to save the country, right? To save the public health care, etc. They never taught us that, because they would never envision that your own leader would be trying to stop all the things you're trying to roll out, like making people want to wear masks, because that was the only first line of defense we had at the beginning. It's like we could have saved thousands of lives. So it's really interesting, because now we go into this administration, they're getting the ball rolling really quickly. The biggest challenge they face right now is the pandemic and the economic recovery of a lot of people who lost their jobs.